recording. And so welcome everybody. I'm super excited about our conversation today. Thank you, Rachel, for being a part of having this conversation. And I'll give you just a moment. I'm here to get started, introduce yourself, and let's dive in. First of all, I just want everyone to know that today's professional webinar is being recorded. And also there is a chat feature. So if you're joining us by your PC or some device that allows you to see the chat and use the chat, Rachel is going to be engaged. So you better use that chat because, I don't know about you, Rachel, but I love to volunteer people. So that's I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have some questions, if there's some additional information or some clarification, Rachel will also have access to it, but I'll be monitoring it and helping along the way. Also, we will be sending out a recap of today's conversation with some additional resources that Rachel is going to be talking about throughout the webinar and towards the end that will support the integration of the information that you're going to get today. So we would love for you to engage with us, ask questions, participate. I'm so excited that you have taken the time to invest in yourself, to talk about what 2020 is going to look like and how to really kind of set that foundation in a way that is a little bit outside of the box. So Rachel, I'm going to hand over the screen to you. So if you'll share your screen with us and let's
Yes, I will do that. So let's get this started. All right. Hi, everybody. Yes, so I see several people who I recognize. So welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And if you're looking for the Forget About 2020 Goals, Focus on Getting Smarter Instead webinar, you have found it. So welcome. And when you read that, you might have thought, forget about 2020 goals, focus on getting smarter instead. What in the world does that mean? Right? Well, we're going to get into that. First of all, though, let's talk about goals for a second. So as Allison mentioned, there is a chat feature. So if you would find that chat feature, because I'm going to be asking you to use that multiple times throughout this, and that would be fantastic. But the first thing I'm going to ask, and I would love for you just to type in a Y for yes or an N for no, is when it comes to goals and meeting your objectives, have you always been able to do it 100% of the time? Just type a Y for yes or an N for no. Right? Okay, so I see pretty much everybody saying no. That's what I would say for myself as well. So if we haven't always been able to reach every single objective and goal that we've tried to do, then that means there might be some room for improvement, some things that we might be able to learn around that, right? So that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so with regard to the actual thing when we talk about goals, though, is are they important? It's really important first to ask ourselves that. So go ahead and type either a Y or an N in the chat box for that. Are goals important? See what everybody's saying. Okay, some people are saying yes, most people are saying yes. Okay, most people are saying yes. All right, so if it comes to this and we think that goals are important, then why? Why are goals important? So if you answered yes, then my next question then is why are they important? So thinking about that, what are some reasons that goal setting is important? Go ahead and just type in 1 or 2 words, just one reason why you think goal setting is important, because it gives you direction or because it helps you with being able to know what to do. What is it that you're saying? Okay, Amanda, motivation. Allison, focus and direction. Felicia, focus. Let's see. Fran, everything's going so fast. Fran, helps me achieve. Amanda, accomplishment. Teresa, purpose. Yes, so goals are important and they help us with a lot of things, right, that we're trying to do. And for me, then 5 reasons that I've thought about when it comes to reasons why goal setting is important are because it helps us to be able to have, I'm trying to get to the, sorry, it wasn't working there for a second, I had a little freeze there. So one of the reasons why I thought goals are important is because it gives us direction, right? Because sometimes there's so many different things that we're trying to figure out what we want to do, and it gives us direction to move forward. It also helps us to be able to have a way to kind of measure things. It's a benchmark to be able to know where we are, where we need to get to, also provides focus when there are so many things competing for our attention and our time. It also provides accountability for me. I know when I actually set a goal, when I've gone through the process of writing things down, figuring it all out, then I'm a lot more accountable to making that happen. It's not just an idea or a wish or a hope. And also for me, motivation too, definitely. Whenever I have goals, then I'm more motivated to make things happen. For the purpose of our conversation today, we're going to define a goal as a desired result a person or a system envisions, plans, and commits to achieve. So we talked about making things smarter, right? So we're going to talk about how to envision smarter, how to plan smarter, and how to commit smarter. Okay, so when we say envision smarter, first of all, we need to figure out what that word even means to envision. So envision means imagine as a future possibility. And if we're going to be imagining things, then that means it's going to be a lot more than just our actions. That's when your thoughts and your feelings are going to come into play too. So when we have a situation or a circumstance that we're currently in, and there's a result or multiple results that we're trying to achieve, there's a lot that goes in between those two things. And when you think about it for just a second, I'm pretty sure all of us would be able to know, well, yeah, you definitely have to have actions to be able to get to certain results. But some of the things that we often forget are that our feelings and our thoughts also come into play. This is a way you can look at it. Your situation or your circumstance is just what is, right? But then you have a thought about that situation or circumstance, and that thought creates a feeling. That feeling then creates actions or inactions, right? If you're having fear about something, you're more likely going to take the route of inaction rather than action. And the actions that we take will determine our results. So I'll get into this in just a second to help you understand a little bit more what I'm talking about here. So Brooke Castillo, she came up with something called the self-coaching model. She didn't invent this. This is just the way that she has presented it in a very simple way that I like. There are a lot of people who have this same kind of concept because it's based on neuroscience and psychology. But I like hers because it's so simple. And she calls it the C.T.F.A.R. method. So there's circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. So for example, when I was in the corporate world, then I worked for a pharmaceutical company. And my circumstance was that I was in the top 20%. And the result that I wanted was I wanted to be number one in the nation. So in between where I was and where I wanted to get to was a lot of things, right? There were a lot of things there. And the actions I could take is I could, either choose to work on the things that would get me there or not. But the actions I took depended vastly and tremendously on the thoughts and feelings I had. So for example, if my thoughts were, well, I'm in the top 20%, that's really good, and I'll still be able to finish well, even if I don't meet my results. And, I want to do this, but I also have a lot of other things on my plate this year, so I don't know that I'm really going to be able to make that happen. Versus the thoughts that I did have of, I have a lot going on, but I am capable of making this happen. My mom taught me growing up, and I'm so grateful for it. She always taught me that this world belongs to you as much as it belongs to anyone else. And to me, what that means is I can do anything I set my mind to. And so I really, truly believed that I was able to do that. I was able to be number one. And so that produced feelings in me of confidence and being capable and being knowledgeable, which influenced my actions to go out and have these conversations with my customers to be able to help them to understand what it was that I felt that I had a value to provide for them, right? And it got me to take the actions to be able to study and learn all I could about the disease states and about how it was affecting people's lives and what it would mean for them if their lives were to be able to be impacted for the positive from what I was able to provide. And those kinds of things then got me into having the results to where I was number one, and I was number one multiple times. But again, if I didn't have the thoughts that it was possible, if I didn't have the feeling of being capable and the confidence to make that happen, it never would have happened. So really the whole thing is this all creates awareness, because so often we're having these results. We have goals, for example, what we're talking about today, and we're never really quite meeting them, and we don't know why. So if you're wondering why you're having the results you're having, then you can use this model to kind of figure that out. Think about, what are the thoughts that I'm having related to this? And how am I feeling about it truly? And how are those two things affecting the actions I am or am not taking, right? So awareness is a catalyst for change. There's no way you're going to change anything unless you're aware that something needs to change. I love what Albert Einstein said. He said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? And so often we might be thinking, oh, but I'm doing something different. I'm doing something different. But are you thinking different about it? Are you feeling different about it? If you're not, you're doing the same things, because those are all part of the whole model to get you the results that you're wanting. So if we're talking about the results, right, we know that envisioning smarter involves your thoughts and your feelings and your actions. But the actions part in particular, we also talked about planning smarter. So if we're going to work on the actions themselves, let's talk about SMART goals for a second. Just in the chat box, again, just wire in for yes or no. Then have you ever heard of SMART goals? Yes or no? Just so I know where people are with this. Okay. All right. Amanda, Fran, Allison, most of the people are saying yes, they've heard of SMART goals. Okay. So SMART goals, for those of you who haven't heard of SMART goals, it's an acronym for specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-bound goals. And that kind of helps you with planning your goal out. And of course, there are some people who say different things. For A, could be achievable, realistic, relatable. Different people have some different things for what each one of the letters stand for. But for our purposes today, we're going to talk about them being specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. But we're not just going to have SMART goals. We're going to have smarter goals. What do I mean by that? So smarter, evaluated, a goal that's actually evaluated. One of the top goals for most people going into a new year is something related to their health. So if we're going to take the example of wanting to lose weight, right? Then if you have these specific plans of how you're going to make that happen, making it measurable, and the actions you're going to take, and is it realistic for you to lose a certain amount or not, and in what time frame. But if you're not evaluating it along the way and trying to figure out, okay, where am I? How much weight have I lost, if that's your goal? And how much more do I have? What is getting in my way? What's stopping me? Where did I fall off the wagon, right? If you're not evaluating along the way, then you're going to get overwhelmed and maybe discouraged, and sometimes just throw that out the window, right? So the evaluated part is a very necessary part of actually achieving your goals. And you can set up a time to do that once a week, once a month, whatever is part of that for you. But that needs to be part of your goal planning, is when are you going to evaluate it, so that you're looking at it and also recognizing, is this still even a goal that I want to be achieving? Okay. And then the R stands for reason driven. So say you have the reason that you want to lose weight. Your reason is because you just think that you have been told that you should lose weight from somebody in your life, versus your doctor saying, if you do not lose weight, you will die, right? That's going to be a very big difference when it comes to the actions that you're going to take and how long you're going to go to be able to even push through those difficult times, right? And same thing for one of the things that I love to think about is people, a lot of times I do a lot of public speaking, and people wonder, how in the world can you do that? Because that's one of their greatest fears. And I think about, if somebody really wants to learn how to do public speaking, it depends on what their reason is. Because somebody who just thinks it's a really neat skill to have, versus somebody who wants to learn how to do public speaking because their daughter's getting married and they want to be able to do the most amazing toast in the world because they want their little girl's day to be the best that it possibly can be. It's going to make a tremendous difference when it comes to actually having that intrinsic motivation to push through and make sure things happen. So we're going to make our SMART goals smarter. All right. And I have a worksheet to hand out after this, also for people who are interested in that goes into each one of those. But this is what I'm talking about. This is what you do. You break it down into whatever your goal is. How is it specific, measurable, action oriented, realistic, get into all of those pieces. Because whenever we do that, it makes a huge difference. John DeMartini, he said, the more details, right? And that's what the details is, that you're getting detailed there. The more details that you plan, the less likely you are to fail, right? And the more you're able and likely to achieve. So that's why we want to be able to have an actual plan, not just have a SMART plan, but have a smarter plan. Okay. And the reason-driven part, that gets us into our next portion, which is commit smarter. So when we talk about commit smarter, what I'm talking about is tying your goals to your values, to what you have deemed important for you. So a way that you can do that is you can ask a simple question. How can this action, whatever it is that you're wanting to take, help me achieve what is truly important to me? Okay, it's a simple question. How can this action help me achieve what is truly important to me? Your highest values, this is something DeMartini also said, your highest values determine your attention, retention, and intention. In other words, what you notice, what you remember, and what you intend or act upon. Okay, so how do you figure out your highest values though? How do you do that? Right? Well, our lives are constantly demonstrating what matters to us most. And here's an example of what I'm talking about. So you can ask yourself right now, what are the top 3 things that I tend to spend my money on? I can tell you one of my top 3 things is books. I have a hard time walking by bookstores and things and not buying a book, right? If it's something that's interesting, or at least I'm looking at books, right? And that's one of the things that I spend a lot of my money on. But why? Why do I spend my money on books? It's because I love learning. But why do I love learning? Because it helps me to grow and to progress. That's one of my biggest values, is progression and growth. Okay. Another thing you can ask yourself is, what 3 things occupy my personal space the most? So looking around your office, looking around your home, what are the main 3 things that you have? Another question you can think about for yourself is, what are the main 3 things that I talk about in conversations? Whenever I can present whatever topic I want to start talking about, what do I typically tend to lean towards talking about? Another question you can ask yourself is, when I get a book, right? When I buy a book, when I get one from the library, when I'm in a bookstore, whatever it may be, what do I gravitate towards? What are the top 3 topics that I gravitate towards mostly, right? For me, it tends to be things on psychology, things on neuroscience, things on self-development, self-help, personal development, those kinds of things. I also love a lot of fiction because I love fun. I love things that are entertaining in my life too. And as you go through those things and think about those questions, what are the top 3 things you spend your money on, top 3 things that occupy your personal space, the top 3 things that you would talk about in conversation if given the opportunity to choose the topic, and what 3 things you typically tend to read about, and figure out why. Why do you read about those things? Why do you buy those things? Why do you spend your money on those things? Why do you have those things in your home? Why do you do what you do? Then that will help you to be able to get to where you can understand what some of your values are. So what some of the things are that are important for you. You know, one of the other things that I spend my money on is I spend my money on things for my children. Why? Because one of my kids, one of their biggest love languages is gifts. And so I know that whenever I'm able to do things for my child that way, then it's helping to build a connection. And that's one of my values also, is connection. So it helps you when you really bring it down to why. Why are they important to you, right? And one of the things sometimes though, is we're asked to do certain things that we don't quite find valuable, right? So something that, especially at work, sometimes you might have someone in the workforce, whether it's your manager or whether it's whoever it may be, asking you to do something, or even somebody asking you to do something in your own personal life. And you're thinking, yeah, I'm really struggling with finding the motivation to really make this happen. So what you can do is you can get a piece of paper. You can just, create 2 columns, put a line down the middle of the paper, and write down what it is that you don't want to do, but need to do. So this is something you can't Delegate away something that you find unfulfilling, but at the same time, something you still feel like you need to do. And then what you can do is you can list on the opposite side ways that it ties to what you value. So if, for example, you're saying, well, I don't want to have to do this report that I feel like somebody else should have to do in my company, but I know that I need to get it done, but you're finding yourself continually putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, then think for yourself, why do I need to get this report done? Well, I need to make sure that my boss isn't mad at me. Why do you need to make sure your boss isn't mad at you? So that you can keep your job. Okay, why do you need to keep your job? Because I want to be able to have security. Why do you want to have security? Because it helps me to have more freedom in my life. Ah, there you go. So start bringing things down and tying it to you. So whenever I have that report that I want to do and I recognize, wow, if I don't get this report done, then I might lose my job, and which is going to affect my personal freedom and my security. Then that's what I value. Then now all of a sudden this thing becomes more valuable for me. Right? So again, our goals, what we talked about, is a desired result a person or a system envisions, plans, and commits to achieve. So hopefully what I've just shared with you was valuable in helping you to see how you can envision smarter, right? So think about also and focus on and become aware of, okay? It's not discounting and saying, oh, those are horrible. Just being aware of your thoughts and your feelings as part of the process as well, and how they affect your actions will help you to envision smarter. And as you plan smarter is to actually create a detailed plan, but make sure it's also evaluated often and that it has a reason behind it. And commit smarter to something. Tie it to your personal values and what you find important, and then you'll be able to find more intrinsic motivation to make it happen. So thank you so much for all of your help with this and participation so far. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up to a Q&A. If anybody has any questions about any part of this or would like any further explanation or wants to share anything, I would be more than happy to answer anything you may have for me at this time.
Thank you, Rachel. So for those of you that would like to ask any questions, this is also a time where you could do some brainstorming as well. So maybe there's a particular situation that Rachel could coach you through or just provide some additional support. This is a good time to do that. If you're not comfortable unmuting yourself, you can always write it in the chat, and one of us will make sure that that gets answered. So Rachel, there's one question. It says, do you have any tips on how to help employees through this when they aren't particularly self-reflective?
How to help employees through which part of it? Through the entire thing, or through the setting goals overall? Okay, setting goals overall. Well, for setting goals overall, it's kind of like at the part that we talked about at the beginning. If somebody doesn't feel like it's important, then they're not going to be able to find the motivation to even try to do it. So when you talk about the value, that's where the values come in, right? So somebody who's not self-reflective, then you can still say to them, okay, well, what do you typically spend your money on? Right? What do you have in right now? If you think about your home, what are 3 main things that you find around you in your personal space, right? Or what do you typically read about the most? Then, and if you you just keep asking why, and get them down, then they'll start to understand and get a little bit more self-reflective in that aspect of it. It's a very easy way to help them to be able to understand what it is that they can then use to tie their goals to help them to be able to find the motivation to move forward. Does that answer the question? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Amanda. Any other questions? Here, I'll say this too, Amanda. I know I saw Patty on here. I don't know if she's still on here, but I saw her show up as well. And Patty, I have the pleasure of being able to coach, and absolutely love you, Patty, by the way. But there's one of the things that I remember happening was we were talking one time about having an incentive program, right? So if you have, oh, hi, Patty, you are here. Okay, good. If you have an incentive program for people in your organization, and you're saying, okay, well, that incentive is going to be money. Some people are going to be motivated by money. Some people aren't going to be motivated by money. Some people are going to be more motivated by accolades or recognition. So it's getting to know also the people that you work with and understanding what you see them light up about, because that helps also with being able to incentivize people to make things happen. And if somebody is not sure for themselves, then when it comes to, say, you are going to offer some money for somebody to be able to bring you a prospect of some kind, for example, in a sales situation, then you can talk to that person and help them to understand, what would this mean for you? What would this mean for you if you were to be able to actually, have this money? Oh, it'd mean for Christmas coming up for some people, or Hanukkah, or whatever you may be celebrating. It would help you to be able to have more money to be able to buy gifts for your family. Well, what would that mean for you? And kind of help them get to the point where they understand how that would be valuable, and they see it for themselves. And then it's able to help them to be able to find the motivation to get things done as well. So Patty, you have a question. Yes.
Hi, Rachel. I love you too. Hi.
Thank you.
A couple of things I just wanted to mention while you're on this topic is we started at our company here at Movista, we started a recognition program recently.
Okay.
It's an intense pressure environment. There's a lot of people working hard and feeling the repercussions of that. There's not a lot of time and effort given to accolades. Actually, the company is quite generous about it, but perhaps given the daily pressure and the daily pace, not enough or not constant enough. Mm-hmm. So they created a recognition program. It's online. Everybody in the company has access to it. You can access it through multiple devices and applications, so they made it quite usable. And it's peer-based. So the executives all have tons of points to share when they would like to do so, but everyone in the company has points to share. And the little accolades given every day, all day long, by people for their colleagues, helping them figure out a problem or what have you. It's incestuous, or I don't mean to say incestuous. What am I trying to say? It is, what am I trying to say? Well, it creates positive karma everywhere to go through this. It takes some time actually to get online and read all the comments, but it makes you feel really good to see peers giving one another kudos for projects that have been difficult that you probably don't have any awareness of. So yeah. I just thought it was a simple, easy way, and there's some dollar value in it, but it's almost nominal. I think basically a recognition or a point, you assign points. A point is worth a penny, somebody told me. So it's not the monetary value, but it works towards there are people that have way more points than others and they get recognized more than others. So I just thought it was a great, simple idea.
It is. It's a fantastic idea. And Amanda chimed in. She said maybe the word you're looking for is infectious.
Thank you. Infectious is it. Yes. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. Allison's asking what the platform is called. The website is bucketlist.org.
Bucketlist.org. Thank you for sharing that. It reminds me actually of when I was in my pharmaceutical industry. When I was working for the company I was working for, is we had something like that where we were able to provide gifts of recognition for each other on our team. And that was so fun because so often too, then we were able to see, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this person was doing this other thing. And then that also helped me to be able to realize I could reach out to somebody about something that they had expertise in, I didn't realize they did, or just even knowing that you were helping somebody, because so often you do things and you don't even realize how it's helping somebody. So being able to have that kind of a system in place, I know I loved it as an employee. So that's fantastic. Congratulations on getting that up and running. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Rachel,
anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, Rachel, this is Allison. I think another interesting question that might be helpful to answer is, you mentioned earlier about evaluating and kind of re-evaluating. I'm curious, what your thoughts are around how often someone should evaluate, what may be some feelings or thoughts that prompting us to, maybe we need to reevaluate. So I'm curious what your thoughts are around that.
Okay, my thoughts around evaluating. One of the things that I think is really important, especially when it comes to motivation, is to reward yourself. And when you're evaluating, you can also have, as part of your evaluation, you can have little rewards of what you're going to do when you meet certain milestones. And if you have this big, huge goal and you're not recognizing your milestones and what you have accomplished as you've been going along, then it's going to make a big difference versus if you are accomplishing something and you're rewarding yourself. And for me, how much time that takes depends really on the goal. Some goals that are really, a year-long goal versus something that is a month-long goal or whatever it may be, then I think that really plays into how often to evaluate it. But honestly, for me, I really like to on Sundays, because that's the day that I use for reflection. I like to on Sundays really just kind of go over how my week went and how I'm doing on my goal, and to see if what it was that I was able to accomplish, because sometimes we forget the little tiny celebrations. And so being able to recognize, wow, I actually moved further than I did, because it's easy to get overwhelmed and think, oh, I'm still not there. But if you're recognizing the celebrations, the little things that you have accomplished, then it's more motivation to keep going also. So for me with evaluation, I like to do it once a week on Sundays, and also because it helps me at the end of the week and the start of my new week to kind of figure out how I'm doing, where I still need to go. And even sometimes it's helped me to recognize, this really isn't still a goal that I want to keep pursuing. So, but what part of it do I want to keep? What part of it do I not want to keep? And that kind of a thing. Does that answer your question, Allison?
Yeah, and I really appreciate the idea that you just brought up right now, is that it's okay to change my mind, and it's okay to change what I set even a month ago or at the beginning of the year, or the beginning of the quarter. When you start to shift and change, both for us as professionals, as our team, as our organization, like we don't have to stay even stuck in the goal or the thing that we want to accomplish. Like it can change, and maybe sometimes it needs to change.
Oh yeah, definitely. That is definitely accurate. That's one of the things that so often I've found for myself, because I am somebody who sets goals and I've been able to accomplish a lot of amazing things in my life because of that. I truly believe that. But one of the things that I have also been able to recognize is being able to be detached from the outcome of that actual goal, to where if I'm able to say, well, this is my goal, and this is what I'm striving for, then also knowing what the reason is behind it. Why do I really want that? And if that gets accomplished in another way other than what I originally thought needed to happen for that to get accomplished, then fantastic. It doesn't have to happen in that way. Or if I'm going towards something and I'm realizing this is just not really helping me with the whole reason behind my goal, what it is that I really want out of this goal, then I need to figure out a different goal, because this is not doing it. So really being able to do that and kind of play in the moment and dance with your goals really makes a huge difference, I think, also with being able to accomplish what it is that is actually valuable and actually important to you in your life, rather than just a specific, this is what I said and this is what I'm going to do, if it's not even serving you anymore.
Awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Allison.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we will start wrapping up our time together today. And I just want to make sure that we've given everyone an opportunity to share, express any thoughts or any additional questions or need for clarification. Again, you can just unmute yourself or write something in the chat. And while we're waiting, Rachel, I know that you said that you had some additional resources that'll help kind of integrate and support the information we talked about today.
Yeah, I do. So for some of the resources, additional resources, if you're interested in learning more about the self-coaching model that I introduced with Brooke Castillo, then she has a podcast and she goes into the model on multiple episodes. But one of the episodes that kind of give you some foundational understanding of that is episode number 26. And its title is the self-coaching model. That's helpful. Also, as I mentioned, with the planning portion, with creating smarter goals, there's a worksheet that I created to be able to hand out to those of you who are interested in that. You can just download that. It's a PDF version to be able to write in and create your actual detailed plan. And then also The Values Factor by John DeMartini. Fantastic book. It is excellent. I highly, highly recommend it for anyone who is trying to figure out a little bit more about what is really valuable to them, and kind of the processes that I was talking about with regard to tying what is unfulfilling or can't be delegated away to something that is important to you, so that you find the motivation to get through it and make it happen. He is fantastic. I just brought up 4 things today. He has 13 different questions you can ask yourself to be able to figure out what some of your main core values really are. And he helps you to break it down and figure out how to determine all that. So those are some of the things that I would definitely recommend if any of this resonated with you and you'd like to learn a little bit more. You can also reach out to me on my website. It's rachelmohrcoaching.com. Be more than happy to discuss anything with anyone for that as well. So yeah, I think those would all be very helpful.
Awesome. And just as a reminder, we'll also be sending the list of these resources as well as a PDF of this Smarter Goals resource that Rachel has shared with us today and has graciously shared with us to give to you all. In the recap, it'll also include her website. And so, yeah, you'll be able to reach out to her directly as well.
Yeah, so thank you so much for all the participation, for chiming in when I asked you to chime in, and I really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, Fran, did you have anything, or are you just saying bye? All right, well, I'm going to stop the recording.